And we're live. Hello, I'm Shirvington Hannays, and this is the Recovery Show. I've been tardy, but last week I was forced into self care, and yes, I have to take care of myself. Why am I doing this now? I should have done it before before I got on air. Well, I've got an issue with when it's not as cold as it should be here in Alberta and most cold places. When the temperature doesn't do good for your skin. I got serious issues with my lips. Anyways, yes, I forgot before I got on the air. But this week, what are we going to be looking at on the Recovery Show? This is the Recovery Show. And yes, last week I didn't get to do an episode for you. And because I want to keep it distinct from Counselor on Call, because your mental health matters, I have to do a little more extra work to ensure that it's distinct because I don't want to be seen as if I'm repeating the same thing over and over. Some of it, of course, I can't get away from that. It is similar. So, for example, this week, what is it that really causes relapse when in recovery? And what causes people to, in the first place, turn to substance to cope or to manage? Well, I must say that I went to my mentor. Oops, I've got the wrong one. This is Further Along the Road Less Travel. Now, there's some good stuff in here by M. Scott Peck that I recommend, highly recommend for parents, for parenting, and for anyone. You don't have to be on the road. I mean, we're all on the road of life. But further along the road, this is some good stuff by M. Scott Peck, or Scotty, as he lovingly referred to himself, and I also say Scotty. So Scotty had some good stuff to say when they had the right one. Picked up the wrong one. Let me see if I can grab it here. What Scotty had to say about substance use disorder and the whole thing of problem solving. Scotty put forward, and I agree with him, that people turn to substances, whether it is while in recovery, and then we have a relapse or a lapse, is that an opportunity to solve a problem because Scotty put forward that life is a series of problems to be solved. We either gonna commit to solving them as they come up, or some of us mourn and groan about the fact that we've got problems and that it has been specifically visited upon us. And I love the way he put forward that this was visited upon you or your tribe or your nation. And he put it forward. That's how much I remember from the book, The Road Less Traveled. But it starts with a very profound statement, a statement that is somewhat coined from the Asian religion or Buddhism, I think, can take some of this. It says life is about suffering. Scotty says life is difficult. I say life has the potential to be difficult. Because come on, for those people who have the support system and all the necessary things in place, it doesn't have to be difficult, but it has the potential based on choices that the person may make, and that can lead to potential difficulty or suffering. But let's pull this back now and keep this distinct from an episode that was already done for the Counselor on Call show. So, here, what contributes to a client's problem? Clients want to know why. Why are they behaving the way they're behaving? They also want to know how to change. Some clinicians refer to addictions as a complex biopsychosocial problems, but in fact, even more factors may be involved. Clinically, the way therapists think about the problem affects how they treat their clients. So for me, everyone know by now that I approach this that it's about the behavior, the beliefs that are promoting the behavior that leads to a person's either unwillingness or inability to manage the opportunities to grow. Okay, what are you talking about here, Shirvington? Manage the opportunities to grow. Well, what I'm talking about here is that life is about choices. We're constantly making choices. We either make them by default, or even when we do not make a choice to make a choice, we've made a choice not to make a choice. So life is about choices. And then with that comes, you've got it, consequences. And based on the consequences, we make more choices. So it's a circular cycle that we go through in this thing called life consistently and all the time. So I like to say, hey, since life is about choices, we have to become more mindful of the choices that we're going to make or not make and the potential consequences that comes with that, which then leads to a particular way of thinking that then has associating feelings that we are going to label as emotions. And before you know it, we have behaviors that go with that. And sometimes that happens to be, that's right, substances that we turn to that either allow us to forget completely. But what if you have gone through a process of treatment and you've arrived at a place where you're now in recovery? That's what we've been talking about in the recovery show. Now, I must give a shout out to those persons, especially in Spotify, who've been following the podcast of the recovery show. You all continue to be committed and faithful, and I'm just humble and honored by the commitment that you show with the podcast on Spotify. I'm sure the same thing is probably happening on the other platforms that it is on. So, assuming that addictive problems are due to only one factor, for example, brain chemistry, irrational beliefs, or arrogance, insensitivity, ineffective therapy, to think that those are the reasons why people have a problem with addictive behavior is not to understand what really is at play. And I've put forward, and I'm gonna reiterate so that we set the stage for today's exploration of what really caused people to relapse or cause them to start the process of experimentation, because I'm of the firm belief that no one starts using a substance or addictive behavior with the intention to become addicted to it or to be dependent on it. In fact, most often, if consciously thought about or if cautioned, people would say with some amount of authority, I've got this. I can beat this. That can't control me. I've got this covered. In fact, one of the challenges for those of you in Guyana who are working to support people with alcoholism, substance use disorder, or addictive behavior, but specifically alcoholism, it's part of our culture that people embrace alcohol as a recreational thing that you do, male and female. I've got some female relatives. They're going to come at me now. Who thinks it's all cool? Oh, we take a drink. And we take a drink and we feel good. As little as you may see it, yes, they may be doing it once every month or every other month, but that can lead to a dependency. Yes, it doesn't have to be that you're using every day to constitute that you have, quote unquote, an addiction of some sort or substance use disorder. Because if when you do take up the substance, you have an inability to control how and how much you use with the substance, you've got just as much of a problem of those 11 things. And by the way, I was using another document with 12 criterias, and the way the mind works, I think I went on to say that, there are 12 criterias for a substance use disorder. It is 11. I take that back. I correct myself. Please don't come at me. Don't send those emails and all of that. Come on. I'm first and foremost a human being, and I can err. But I'm also big enough to come and say, I've made an error. So in listening to it again, I realized that I said 12. No, it is 11. Just as I think I once said .com, changeclinic.com. Well, you went there and it wasn't my site. Please try .org, O-R-G, changeclinic.org. Okay, so we've put those two to rest. So let's get back to what this book, it's my diagnostic Bible that I use in managing addictions, cognitive, emotive, and behavioral techniques, okay, by F. Bishop, who put forward very nicely several things that make you get a different appreciation for what is quote unquote addictions. What really is addictions? What are we talking about? So I started there by saying that we're saying, hey, some clinicians will say it's a biopsychosocial issue. I am one of those persons who think that is a biopsychosocial. And what is biopsychosocial for those of you who are hearing this for the first time? Bio, psycho, social. That is three sets of factors: biological, psychological, and social. Okay? Environmental factors, psychological factors, and biological factors colliding, as I would say, creating the perfect storm. And before you know it, a perfect storm, don't worry with the perfect word. A perfect storm is that everything is disarray. So there we have it, the perfect storm. And it shows up for different people in different ways. So it is very common for people to believe many things based on their experiences, but unfortunately, our own personal experience can often bias us in the wrong direction. I'm going to read that again, and then I'm going to make a point that I've been always saying does not make sense. It is very common for people to believe many things based on their experience. So they've been using substances, and that's their experience. But unfortunately, our own personal experience can often bias us in the wrong direction. Which brings me to this thing about people saying, hey, because you have lived experience of using substance, that makes you now qualified to be a counselor. Well, let's get something clear. The thing that you may counsel on are all the bad things that led to your loss of control. Hello? It does make sense? Of course, it does make sense. Even if you've recovered without any support, a lot of what you might have done is based on your circumstances and the things and the factors that may not be the same for another person. So, who now gives you the right to say that because of that, you have everything? Now, if you were a clinician with the necessary training and expertise, along with the fact that you've got lived experience, now that's a totally different thing. I give you that. But that shouldn't mean because you've had lived experience that you automatically, oops, I just realized I'm talking about someplace here. Yes, automatically put you in a position to go and support others. You know good what are all quote unquote the negative or maladaptive things that you did that kept you in. Because if it was so much useful, why didn't you get yourself out before you got to the place where you had quote unquote a total dependency or a total loss of control? Exactly my point. Why am I ranting right now? I'm ranting because I've had the good fortune, yes, you know who you are, of being in several different places where this is being insisted on that, oh, we have special people that we are dealing with, that we now gonna qualify and send them out into the community without working with them for them to address their unresolved issues, but we're gonna send them out to go and support people with life changing choices and decisions and impact on their lives when they have not addressed. It is the reason why, for example, certain universities, for a person showing up to say, hey, I want to do a course of study in psychology, the first thing they want to know, have you addressed your issues? Just thought I'd touch on that. Getting back to managing addictions. And this chapter looks at what contributes to a person's problems, why they turn to substances in the first place, or why there is the repeat relapsing. So, to get context to that paragraph that I was just reading, let's go back here. Assuming that addictive problems are due to only one factor, such assumptions are often a result of the belief that the way I got cured is the only way. I had a heated discussion once with someone who was insisting, when I'm trying to say, from a more empirical look with an overview of the stuff, as against insisting, well, I got healed and cured this way. That doesn't say it will work for everybody else. The factors and the things that led you to a loss of control and how you were able to become mindful and get yourself out could be good. Yes, reference points that you can share, but it doesn't ultimately becomes empirical because it may not be able to be replicated, and because of that, it's not empirical. So back to what authority, real proven, good stuff here is saying, hey, do not take that to be one cure may reveal more about the therapist's own rigidness held belief than anything else. So that's the reason why, for me, yes, I'm rooted in REBT, rational and irrational ways of looking at things, and how we can get to a more rational way of looking at things so we can make different choices and have different consequences and hopefully have alternative behaviors based on our way of thinking. So, even more important than the therapist's belief are the client's beliefs. Now, this is where I think there is good stuff. Regardless of lived experience or not, everybody come to the experience of substance use, abuse, or misuse with beliefs. And it's the beliefs that promotes the behavior that gets you first to experiment, to try, to decide that this is probably the best way of me to cope with my anxieties, being overwhelmed, or feeling that you don't have self efficacy, what it takes to deal with a particular issue or resolve something, your beliefs. So, like I shared last night, yeah, I was a little late in the constant on call recording for Friday. Okay, I finally took that, and I was not having a good time all of last week. So Monday couldn't make it. Friday I couldn't make it, but I'm back. I'm refreshed and everything, and I'm ready to go. So there you go. My excuse for being tardy last week. But yes, so therapists must consider many factors when they're working with clients who are grappling with serious addictive problems. If there are various contributing factors, the solution may have to be varied as well. As I quote F. Bishop, that put forward in Managing Addictions, really an awesome book. If you can get your hand on, especially clinicians, which is very me to the point someone is insisting that, you know what, you should do a podcast for clinicians, young clinicians. And now I am qualified to do that with the designation of a clinical supervisor. I can support others who are now getting in the field or junior in the field to develop and support them in their journey. So that is something I'm going to consider. It's not on the burner right now. There are more pressing things to get the change clinic and spa experience virtually functioning as a spa retreat where you'll have the spa experience, not rehab center. No, we're dealing with a spa experience. And for those of you, by the way, who are already registered, I just realized last night how many of you are registered at the changeclinic.org. Good on you. You don't even have to pay a one-time fee to have access to everything multimedia, edu therapy, on demand. You have full access to it. So, for those of you who haven't as yet registered at changeclinic.org, changeclinic.org, register. Because once you're registered, you are exempt from having to either pay the one time fee if you're in the Caribbean or Guyana, or for those of you who want to be able to have full on access to everything virtual, live, and on demand, you will have to pay that monthly subscription. But we're getting there. Just like BetterHelp and TalkSpace, Change Clinic was always built to ultimately be what? Self self motivation and healing ourselves online. That's small. Yes, that's what it's always been supposed to be. But thanks, sorry, I'm going to take that back. I want to say thanks to COVID. As a result of COVID, yes, as a result of COVID, we will have finally the launch and official declaration of the virtual clinic that is changeclinic.org, which will be renamed. Come on, Facebook had a renaming, so why can't Change Clinic have an extension of its name? Smaho Change Clinic and Spa Experience, the spa retreat for relapse prevention and relapse rescue. Yeah, we'll have some counseling and coaching and therapy along the way, but our specialty is relapse prevention and relapse rescue. So, with that said, because this was like a polish up episode, we're just around 23 minutes. So, I'm going to take the liberty. This is a little longer than usual episode for the recovery show. I'm going to take just about 8 more minutes and get it to 30 minutes. So, therapists must consider many factors when they're working with clients. We must consider how many possible contributing factors, asking ourselves, how might this factor affect the way we work together? Does this client think she has a disease? Now, this is usually one of the challenges you may have in recovery. If you're holding on to the notion or the belief that what you have is a disease as against a disorder. What's the difference? There is a difference. One is saying that there's something physically, medically wrong, biologically with your brain and your functioning that leads to certain behaviors where you will then go and pick up substances and just use whatever you do. The other one is saying that, well, there are several factors coming together to create a perfect storm, and you have disorder in your life in all facets and areas of your life, a disorder. And that's why I like the word disorder, because it speaks to what the thing really becomes. Disorder. It's not orderly, it's disorderly. That's why I like that. And it actually does speak to that. And that's why you have those 11 criterias. If you have 2 or 3, you're deemed to have a mild substance use disorder. 4, 5, you've got a moderate. 6 and above of the 11 criterias, which we can explore some more, which we have explored before, which we will explore some more as a refresher for the recovery show next Monday. So, to bring this home, I want to leave with you that one of the things that we're going to look at, and it's going to help us, the why people repeatedly relapse, is that there are different types of clients. And the work we do with each type of client will determine the potential success of keeping longer periods of sobriety. And the potential of lapsing or relapsing gets minimized. And the frequency with being triggered and the cravings, okay, reduces. So that's where we're going to head with this as we continue to explore and use managing addictions, whether it's going to be cognitively, emotive, or with behavioral techniques. I'm Shirvington Hannays, and this was the Recovery Show. Thank you for watching, and as usual, you can always get more information at www.changeclinic.org. And for those of you who would like to see how to rescue yourself from a relapse, you can always go to howtorescueyourself.ca. And you can follow up with all of the entire series that wraps up this week, actually. But you can get the information there at any time at, yes, howtorescueyourself.ca. Bye for now.